The morning sun rose over New Eden, casting long shadows across the settlement's main plaza. Commander James stood at the observation deck of Defense Station Alpha, sipping his coffee and watching the colonists begin their day. 3 years of peace had made this morning ritual a pleasant one. The colony on Proxima B had grown from a handful of prefab shelters to a thriving community of 30,000 souls. "Sir, we're picking up unusual readings at the edge of the system," said Officer Reed, her voice cutting through James's thoughts. James put down his mug. "Define unusual." "Multiple objects dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They're not following standard approach vectors, and they're not responding to hails." James felt a chill run down his spine. "Sound the alert. Get everyone to battle stations." Across the colony, alarm bells began to ring. Down on the surface, Tom Miller looked up from his breakfast as the emergency sirens wailed. His wife, Anna, dropped the plate she was washing, and their 2 children froze in place. "Dad?" his daughter asked, her voice small with fear. "Get to the shelter," Tom said, already moving toward the door. As head of the colony's engineering team, he needed to be at the command center. "I'll meet you there as soon as I can." The objects approaching New Eden were ships, warships, unlike anything humans had ever built. They moved with frightening speed and purpose. 17 vessels, Officer Reed reported, all heavily armed based on energy readings. James opened a colony-wide channel. "This is Commander James. We have unidentified craft approaching. All civilians proceed to emergency shelters." This is not a drill. In the science hub, Lisa Jordan was compiling data as quickly as she could. As the colony's lead xenobiologist, she had spent years studying potential forms of alien life. Now, faced with actual contact, she worked frantically to gather all research data onto portable drives. "We need to preserve everything," she told her team. "If these are hostiles, our research might be the key to understanding them." The first attack came without warning. A beam of intense energy sliced through Defense Station Beta, cutting it in half. The explosion lit up the morning sky. "Return fire," James ordered, but their weapons seemed to have little effect on the alien ship shields. Tom reached the command center just as the first explosions rocked the colony. Screens showed Defense Station Alpha engaging the enemy, but it was clear they were outmatched. "We need to evacuate," said Governor Wells, her face pale. "Tom, can we get the emergency ships ready?" "Yes, but we'll need time. Those ships weren't designed for a full colony evacuation." "Time is something we don't have," the governor replied, watching as another defense station fell. In orbit, Commander James fought to keep his station operational as 3 enemy ships focused their fire on him. "Sir, we've lost engines and weapons," Reed reported, blood running down her face from a cut on her forehead. "Life support is failing." James knew they were finished. "Send the emergency beacon to Earth. Include all the data we've gathered on these attackers. Make sure it gets through." Reed nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. "Message away, sir." The command center shook as another blast hit them. "Abandon station," James ordered. "Everyone to escape pods." On the surface, chaos reigned. Tom tried to organize an evacuation, but alien ships had begun landing on the outskirts of the colony. Strange, tall figures emerged, moving with an unsettling grace as they began methodically destroying buildings and capturing colonists. "Tom." Anna's voice came through his communicator. "They're at the shelter. They're taking people." Tom's blood ran cold. "Hide. I'm coming for you." Lisa watched from the window of her lab as the aliens rounded up colonists. They were tall, with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shift colors like a chameleon. She recorded everything, adding notes to her data. "They're separating people by age," she muttered into her recorder. "They seem particularly interested in the younger colonists." A crash behind her made Lisa turn. One of the aliens stood in the doorway of her lab. It tilted its head, studying her with 3 large black eyes. Lisa backed away slowly, clutching her data drive. The alien moved forward with frightening speed, reaching for her with one of its upper arms. She ducked under a table and scrambled toward the emergency exit. Defense Station Alpha exploded in a ball of fire. James and a handful of crew members watched from their escape pod as their home for the past 3 years became a cloud of debris. "Sir, the beacon?" asked Reed. "It got through," James confirmed. "Now we need to survive to tell them ourselves." Their pod jerked suddenly as a tractor beam locked onto them. Through the small window, James could see one of the alien ships pulling them in. Tom never made it to the shelter. The aliens had set up blockades on all major roads. He watched from a hiding place as they loaded colonists into transport ships. He couldn't see his family among them. "I'll find you," he promised silently. "Somehow, I'll find you." By nightfall, the colony of New Eden had fallen. The few functioning cameras showed empty streets, burning buildings, and alien ships landed in the colony's central plaza. More than half the population had been taken. The rest were either dead or in hiding. In her hidden alcove beneath the science hub, Lisa continued to record data and observations. She had managed to link into the colony's remaining camera network and was documenting everything. "Day 1 of occupation," she whispered into her recorder. "The invaders have established control points throughout the colony. They appear to be searching systematically for survivors." A weak transmission reached her terminal. Commander James's escape pod had managed to send one final message before being captured. "They're taking us somewhere. Not killing. Collecting. Earth must know. Earth must come." Lisa added the message to her data and continued her silent vigil, knowing that she might be the colony's last hope. In the remnants of the command center, a single emergency transmitter continued to broadcast its automatic distress call, sending the colony's final moments toward Earth, message traveling at light speed across the vast darkness of space. The message would take 3 weeks to reach home, and when it did, humanity would respond. Admiral Wilson sat motionless in the dimly lit conference room. The holographic display before him played the final moments of New Eden on repeat. Each time, he watched as the alien ships descended on the colony. Each time, he saw the defense stations fall one by one. Each time, his heart broke anew. "Play it again," he ordered, his voice rough with emotion. "Sir," his aide said gently, "you've watched it 17 times already." Wilson's eyes never left the display. "My son was on that colony, Lieutenant. Station Alpha. Communications officer." He pointed to a flash of light as the station exploded. That was John. The door to the conference room slid open. President Rodriguez entered, followed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Everyone stood except Wilson, who remained transfixed by the hologram. "Admiral," the president said, "I need your full attention." Wilson finally looked up, his red-rimmed eyes meeting the president's. "Madam President, I've just addressed the United Nations. Earth is united on this. We will respond." She nodded to an aide who switched the holographic display to show a global map covered with pulsing red dots. "Every nation has pledged their full support. Every shipyard, every factory, every able-bodied person who volunteers." Wilson finally stood. "What's the plan?" "You're the plan. Admiral, I'm putting you in command of the largest fleet in human history." In low Earth orbit, shipyard supervisor Mark Jenkins floated through the massive construction bay that had, until 3 days ago, been building luxury space cruisers. Now, it was being converted to outfit civilian vessels with military hardware. "We're stripping everything non-essential," he explained to the government officials following him. "These cruise ships have plenty of power and life support. We're using that capacity to add weapon systems." One official looked doubtful. "You're turning pleasure craft into warships. Will that even work?" Mark gestured to a nearby ship where workers were mounting missile launchers where swimming pools had once been. "We don't have time to build a traditional military fleet. We need numbers, and we need them fast." In another part of the shipyard, engineer Kate Barnes bent over her workstation, surrounded by holographic designs of fishing trawlers, cargo haulers, and private yachts, all modified with weapon systems. The beauty of it, she explained to her team, is that these ships were never designed to be military vessels. Their profiles, their energy signatures, the aliens won't be expecting them to be threats. Her assistant pointed to a small passenger ferry on the screen. This one doesn't have enough power for the weapon systems. Kate smiled. Then we make it a carrier for smaller drones. Every ship has a purpose. Every ship joins the fight. At the United Nations emergency session, President Rodriguez stood before the assembled representatives of Earth. 3 weeks ago, humanity suffered its first attack from an alien species, an unprovoked assault that resulted in the death or capture of 30,000 colonists. Her voice was steady, but her hands gripped the podium tightly. We do not yet know why we were attacked. We do not yet know who our enemy is, but we know this: humanity will not stand for this aggression. The chamber erupted in applause and shouts of approval. The nations of Earth have agreed to set aside all differences, she continued when the noise died down. Today, we fight not as Americans or Russians or Chinese or Nigerians. We fight as humans for the future of our species. In a military training facility in Nevada, retired Colonel Pete Davis watched as civilians practiced on weapon simulators. They had been bus drivers, teachers, accountants just days before. Now they were training to be gunners, engineers, and pilots. Keep your fire concentrated, he shouted as a group struggled with a point defense targeting system. These weapons are designed to work together. You're not individuals anymore. You're a unit. A young woman missed her target completely. Pete stepped in, adjusting her stance. I was a librarian last week, she said, frustration in her voice. I don't know if I can do this. Pete looked at her identification badge. Emma, is it? When she nodded, he continued. Did you have anyone on New Eden? Her eyes hardened. My brother Tom. His wife. Their kids. Then you can do this. For them. Emma took a deep breath and turned back to the simulator. This time, she hit the target. In his office at Fleet Command, Admiral Wilson reviewed the latest numbers with his staff. We have 487,000 vessels committed so far, his logistics officer reported. We expect to reach 700,000 within the next 10 days. Crew numbers? Wilson asked. We have more volunteers than we can use. Everyone wants to fight. Wilson nodded, studying the tactical displays. The enemy has superior technology. We could see that from the New Eden footage. But they won't be expecting this many ships. They won't be expecting civilians to fight. He zoomed in on the attack plans. We'll use swarm tactics. Overwhelm their defenses with numbers. Even the most advanced targeting systems can only track so many targets at once. His tactical officer looked concerned. Sir, we're asking untrained civilians to fly into battle. The casualties could be enormous. Wilson's face was grim. I know, but we've sent out rescue ships to search for any survivors from New Eden. If we find anyone, any information they can provide might give us an edge. On a rescue vessel near Proxima B, a scout ship returned with news. Captain, we've intercepted an alien prison transport, the pilot reported excitedly. There are human survivors aboard. Within hours, the rescue team had boarded the alien vessel and freed the prisoners. Among them was Lisa, the science officer, clutching her precious data drive. They call themselves the Harvesters, she told the debriefing team, her voice hoarse from weeks in captivity. They raid developing civilizations, taking resources and specimens. She connected her drive to their system, displaying images of the alien biology and technology. I recorded everything I could. Their ships have a weakness. Their shield generators can't handle rapid shifts in attack vectors. Multiple small ships attacking from different angles could overwhelm them. Back on Earth, Emma completed her training and was assigned to a converted fishing vessel as a gunner. As she boarded, she touched the photo of her brother's family that she kept in her pocket. I'm coming for you, Tom, she whispered. "All of us are coming." In orbit, the largest fleet in human history began to assemble. From massive converted cruise liners to tiny one-person shuttles, ships gathered by the thousands. Admiral Wilson stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as more vessels arrived hourly. His tactical display showed the fleet growing, a vast cloud of humanity's determination and fury. "Sir," his communications officer called, "we're receiving the data from the rescued science officer. It includes tactical information about the enemy's capabilities." Wilson's eyes narrowed. "Send it to all ships. We launch in 24 hours. The battle boats of revenge were coming." Earth's orbit had never seen such a sight. Ships of every size and shape formed a glittering cloud around the planet. Former luxury liners now bristled with weapon systems. Fishing vessels carried missile pods where nets once hung. Private yachts had been stripped of their comforts and packed with military hardware. Admiral Wilson stood at the view screen of his flagship, the converted cruise liner now named Vengeance. Before him stretched humanity's answer to the alien threat. 700,000 vessels of all shapes and sizes, crewed by people from every nation on Earth. "Final count, sir," reported his aide. 712,893 ships, over 3 million crew members. Wilson nodded silently. The numbers were almost impossible to comprehend. No military fleet in human history had ever come close to this size. "Begin the final briefing," he ordered. Throughout the massive fleet, screens lit up with Wilson's face. In engine rooms and galleys, on bridges and gun decks, people paused to listen. "You know why we're here," Wilson began, his voice steady. 3 weeks ago, an alien force attacked our colony at New Eden. 30,000 of our people were killed or captured. We go now to answer that attack." Aboard a converted fishing trawler called Marlin's Revenge, Emma watched the Admiral's speech with her gunnery team. The ship had been her brother Tom's favorite fishing spot on his visits back to Earth. Now she served on it as second gunner, determined to reach New Eden and discover Tom's fate. "The enemy has better technology," Wilson continued on screen. "Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful, but there are 700,000 of us. We will swarm them. We will overwhelm them. We will make them regret the day they ever heard of humanity." A cheer went up throughout the fleet, echoing from ship to ship. On the bridge of a converted cargo hauler, Captain Doug Miller checked his ship's systems one final time. His vessel, the Heavy Lifter, had once carried construction materials between Earth and Mars. Now it carried 20 missile launchers and a crew of 50 determined fighters. "Navigation ready?" he asked his pilot, a former bus driver from Toronto. "Course plotted, Captain," she replied. "We're assigned to Battle Group Theta, position 2187. Doug nodded, studying the tactical display where thousands of tiny dots represented their fleet. Battle Group Theta consisted of 3,000 ships, and theirs was just one small part of the massive assault force. "Our job is to stay in formation and fire on designated targets," he reminded his crew. "Trust your training. Trust each other." In the medical bay of the Vengeance, Lisa worked with military scientists to finalize their analysis of the Harvester technology. Her weeks in captivity had given her valuable insights into the enemy. "Their visual sensors have a blind spot here and here," she explained, pointing to a holographic model of a Harvester ship. "Small, fast vessels can approach from these angles with minimal risk of detection." Admiral Wilson joined them, studying the model. "And you're certain about their shield vulnerability?" Lisa nodded firmly. "Their shields are designed to withstand concentrated fire from a few large weapons. They can't adapt quickly to attacks from multiple directions using different weapon types." "That's the core of our strategy," Wilson said, turning to his tactical officers. "We don't hit them with one hammer. We hit them with 1,000 needles from every direction." The fleet's departure began at dawn Earth time. Ship by ship, they moved into formation and engaged their engines. It would take them 3 weeks to reach New Eden at maximum speed. During the journey, training continued. On every ship, Crews ran drills and simulations based on Lisa's intelligence. Emma improved her gunnery skills daily, often practicing until her hands cramped. At night, she would stare at the stars, wondering if Tom was still alive, still fighting somewhere on that distant colony. "We found survivors from the prison transport," her captain reminded her during one late shift. "There's hope." Emma nodded, but said nothing. Hope was dangerous. Action was better. 1 week into their journey, the fleet's long-range scouts detected something unexpected. "Admiral," the sensor officer reported, "we're picking up a harvester outpost at these coordinates." Wilson studied the data. The outpost was small, just a monitoring station with a few ships. It lay directly in their path. "Battle groups Alpha through Delta will engage," Wilson ordered. "The rest of the fleet will continue on course." Captain Doug's ship was part of Battle Group Beta. As they approached the alien outpost, he addressed his nervous crew. "This is what we trained for," he told them. "Remember the drills. Remember New Eden." The attack was swift and overwhelming. 3,000 human ships descended on the outpost from all directions. The harvester vessels, caught by surprise, managed to destroy 27 human ships before being overwhelmed. "Search their databases," Wilson ordered once the outpost was secured. "I want any intelligence we can gather." The data they recovered painted a chilling picture. The harvesters were not just raiders. They were systematic collectors of species and resources. New Eden had been marked as a harvest site long before the attack. More disturbing, the outpost records showed that the harvesters had a much larger empire than anyone had suspected, spanning several star systems. "They've done this before," Lisa said quietly as she reviewed the data. "To other species, they take what they want and move on." Wilson's face hardened. Not this time. This time, they picked the wrong species to harvest. As the fleet continued its journey, they encountered 2 more harvester outposts. Each time, they attacked with overwhelming force, and each time, they gathered more intelligence. 3 weeks after leaving Earth, the Armada approached the Proxima Centauri system. Long-range sensors showed increased harvester activity around New Eden. "They've reinforced their position," Wilson's tactical officer reported. "At least 30 large warships in orbit." Wilson nodded grimly. "They're expecting us, but they're not expecting this many of us." He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "Battle stations, all ships prepare for combat operations. We have reached New Eden." Emma stood at her gun station, heart pounding as the red alert sounded throughout the ship. On her screen, she could see the distant shape of New Eden, once a vibrant colony, now occupied by the enemy. "For Tom," she whispered, hands steady on her controls. "For all of them." Admiral Wilson gave the final order. "All battle groups, commence attack. Show them what happens when you attack humanity." The Battle of New Eden was about to begin. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in carefully planned waves. First came the scout ships, small and fast, gathering vital intelligence on harvester positions. Next came the heavy converted liners, their massive frames now housing weapon systems that would have been impossible to hide from enemy scanners. And then, like a flood unleashed, came the main force. Hundreds of thousands of smaller vessels spreading out in a formation that resembled a giant net. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Admiral Wilson watched as the tactical display showed his forces moving into position. "The harvesters are responding," his sensor officer reported. "Their capital ships are moving to intercept our main force." Wilson nodded. This was expected. Execute Phase 1. Throughout the fleet, captains received their orders. Battle Group Delta, consisting of 50,000 smaller vessels, broke formation and accelerated toward New Eden from an entirely different vector than the main fleet. Captain Doug's heavy lifter was part of this diversion force. "All hands, battle stations," he ordered, his voice steady despite the fear trying to claw its way up his throat. "Weapons hot. Stay in formation." The harvester fleet, caught by surprise at the sheer number of human ships, hesitated. Their largest vessels began to move toward Doug's battle group, just as the plan had called for. "They're taking the bait," Doug reported back to Fleet Command. "Primary Harvester Force is pursuing. Hold their attention as long as possible," came the terse reply. "Main assault begins in 3 minutes." Aboard the Marlin's Revenge, Emma and her gunnery team watched as the massive fleet split into hundreds of smaller attack groups. Their ship was part of Battle Group Omega, tasked with a direct assault on the Harvester ground forces. "All gunners, prepare for atmospheric entry," the captain announced. "Our target is Landing Zone 3. The old colony center. Intelligence believes there are human prisoners being held there." Emma's heart pounded. The colony center was where Tom's family had their home. If anyone had survived, they might be there. The Harvester command ship, a massive vessel that dwarfed even Earth's largest converted liners, moved to engage what they perceived as the primary human threat, Captain Doug's divergent force. Energy signatures show they're charging main weapons, Doug's sensor officer reported, voice tight with tension. "Initiate evasion pattern Bravo," Doug ordered. "All ships, scatter and reform. Don't give them a single target." The 50,000 ships of Battle Group Delta suddenly broke formation, splitting into smaller groups that darted in different directions. The Harvester weapons fired, destroying 17 human ships in a single blast, but missing the majority of the force. "Return fire," Doug ordered. Pattern Starfall. From thousands of human ships, missiles and energy weapons fired not at the Harvester command ship's hull, but at specific points identified in Lisa's intelligence briefing. Their shield generators were located in 6 key positions around the vessel. Hit all 6 simultaneously, and the shields would fail. On the Vengeance, Admiral Wilson watched as the main Harvester fleet committed to pursuing the divergent force. "Launch Phase 2, he ordered. The main human fleet, over 500,000 vessels, suddenly accelerated toward New Eden. They approached not as one mass, but as thousands of smaller groups, each targeting different Harvester positions both in space and on the ground. The Harvester commanders, suddenly realizing they had been drawn out of position, tried to recall their forces. But it was too late. The human swarm had already broken through their defensive line. "We have breach," Wilson's tactical officer announced. Multiple battle groups reporting successful penetration of Harvester defenses. Ground assault teams beginning their drops. The Marlin's Revenge entered New Eden's atmosphere along with 3,000 other ships of similar size. As they descended, Harvester ground defenses opened fire, filling the sky with energy beams and missiles. "Evasive maneuvers," the captain shouted as their ship rocked from a near miss. "Gunners, target those defense towers." Emma locked onto a Harvester ground installation and fired. The missiles struck true, destroying the alien weapon emplacement. All around them, other human ships were doing the same, creating a hole in the Harvester defenses. "Landing zone in sight," the pilot announced. "There's heavy Harvester presence on the ground." Through the viewport, Emma could see the colony center, or what remained of it. Many buildings had been destroyed, but the central administration complex still stood. Harvester troops moved around it, setting up defensive positions as human ships approached. "All ground teams prepare for deployment," the captain ordered. "Gunners provide cover fire." Emma's gun turret swiveled, targeting Harvester positions around the landing zone. She fired precisely, systematically, eliminating threats as the ship descended. In orbit, the battle had become chaotic. The Harvester command ship shields had failed under the concentrated attack from Doug's battle group. Now, smaller human vessels were darting around it, targeting engines, weapons, and communication arrays. "We've disabled their main propulsion," Doug reported to Fleet Command, moving to take out their weapons systems. Admiral Wilson's flagship pushed through the thinned Harvester defenses, heading for a direct confrontation with a second Harvester command ship that had remained in orbit around New Eden. "They're hailing us," his communications officer reported with surprise. Wilson's eyes narrowed. "Put them through." The view screen showed a Harvester commander for the first time. It was tall, with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like a chameleon. Its 3 black eyes regarded Wilson coldly. "You have violated Harvest Protocol," the alien said, its voice translated by the systems Lisa had helped develop. "This world was marked for collection. Retreat now, and we will spare your home world." Wilson's face remained impassive. "You attacked our colony without provocation. You killed or captured our people. There will be no retreat." He cut the transmission and turned to his weapons officer. "Target their shield generators. All weapons, fire." On the surface, the Marlin's Revenge landed amid the ruins of the colony's central plaza. Emma and the ground team deployed, weapons ready, moving toward the administration building where life signs had been detected. "Contact," shouted the team leader as Harvester troops appeared from a side street. Gunfire erupted, both human and alien weapons lighting up the ruins. Emma took cover behind a fallen wall, returning fire. Through the chaos, she spotted the entrance to the administration building. If there were human survivors inside, she had to reach them. Covering fire, she called to her teammates, "I'm going for the building." As her team laid down suppressing fire, Emma sprinted across the open ground, dodging Harvester energy blasts. She reached the entrance and kicked in the door, weapon raised. Inside, she found what she had both hoped for and feared: human prisoners. Dozens of colonists, thin and weak, but alive. And among them, staring at her with disbelieving eyes, was Tom. "Emma," he whispered, rising shakily to his feet. "You came." Emma lowered her weapon, tears streaming down her face. "Not just me," she said. "All of us. 700,000 ships. Humanity came." Outside, the sky filled with human vessels as the Battle of New Eden raged on. The battle for New Eden's orbit reached its peak as Admiral Wilson's flagship engaged the second Harvester command ship. Energy weapons flashed between the vessels, lighting up the darkness of space. The converted luxury liner shuddered under repeated hits, but its hastily installed shields held. "Status report," Wilson demanded as another blast rocked the bridge. "Shields at 40%. His tactical officer replied. But we're not alone anymore. On the tactical display, thousands of human ships converged on their position, having broken through the Harvester defensive lines. The alien command ship suddenly found itself surrounded by vessels of all sizes, from tiny one-person fighters to massive converted cargo haulers. "All ships, coordinated fire on these points," Wilson ordered, transmitting targeting data based on Lisa's intelligence. "Hit them everywhere at once." From 7 different directions, human vessels unleashed their weapons. The Harvester shields, designed to withstand concentrated fire from a few large weapons, couldn't adapt quickly enough to the scattered attack pattern. Energy beams and missiles slipped through the weakened points, striking the hull directly. On the planet's surface, the battle for the colony center continued. Emma and Tom led the prisoners out of the administration building, while human forces pushed back the Harvester ground troops. "We need to get to the landing zone," Emma told her brother, supporting him as they moved through the rubble-strewn streets. "Our ships can get you all to safety." Tom shook his head. "Not yet. The Harvesters have more prisoners in the science complex, and they have something important there, something they protect more than anything else." "What is it?" Emma asked. "I don't know exactly, but whatever it is, the Harvesters guard it day and night. It must be valuable." Emma reported this information to her team leader, who relayed it to Fleet Command. Within minutes, a new objective appeared on their tactical displays: the science complex on the eastern edge of the colony. Captain Doug's heavy lifter, having crippled the first Harvester command ship, received new orders. Ground support requested at these coordinates, his communications officer reported. High-value target identified. "Take us down," Doug ordered. "All weapons ready for ground support fire." As the heavy lifter descended through the atmosphere, Doug could see the battle raging across the colony. Human forces had established control over several sectors, but Harvester resistance remained fierce around certain areas, including their new target. The science complex stood largely intact, surrounded by Harvester defensive positions. As Doug's ship approached, alien anti-aircraft weapons opened fire. Evasive action. Doug shouted as his ship lurched to avoid the incoming fire. Target those gun emplacements first. The heavy lifters' weapons found their marks, destroying the Harvester defenses one by one. Other human ships joined the attack, creating a pathway for ground forces to approach the complex. Emma, Tom, and a team of soldiers reached the science complex as the Harvester defenses crumbled under the aerial assault. They moved quickly through the entrance, weapons ready. "This way," Tom said, leading them through corridors he had cleaned as a prisoner. "The restricted area is down below." In orbit, Admiral Wilson's forces had critically damaged the second Harvester command ship. Its engines were offline, and fires burned along its hull where human weapons had breached the armor. "They're attempting to transmit a signal," Wilson's communications officer reported. "Long range, directed toward a location outside our solar system." "Jam it," Wilson ordered immediately. "Cut off all their communications." Lisa, who had joined the bridge crew for the battle, looked up from her console. "Admiral, we should let part of the message through." Wilson turned to her in surprise. "Why would we do that?" "So we can trace it," Lisa explained. "Find out where it's going. That could lead us to the Harvester homeworld." Wilson considered this for a moment, then nodded. "Do it. Let enough through to get a direction, then cut it off." In the science complex, Emma, Tom, and their team fought through the last Harvester defenders. They'd reached a sealed door at the lowest level, marked with alien symbols. "This is it," Tom said. "I've never been allowed inside." The team's explosives expert set charges around the doorframe. "Clear," she shouted, and they all took cover as the charges detonated. The smoke cleared to reveal a large chamber filled with strange equipment. And in the center, suspended in a glowing field, was a crystalline object about the size of a human head. "What is it?" Emma asked, approaching cautiously. Before Tom could answer, a voice spoke from behind them. "It is a navigation core." They turned to see Lisa entering the chamber, accompanied by Admiral Wilson and a security team. After tracking the Harvester signal, they had come directly to the complex. "Each Harvester fleet has one," Lisa continued, studying the crystal with intense interest. "Based on the data we captured, it contains star charts, coordinates of other Harvester forces, and most importantly, the location of their homeworld." Wilson approached the crystal. "Can we remove it safely?" Lisa nodded. "I believe so. And with this, we can take the fight to them." As human forces secured the rest of the colony, the Harvester resistance in orbit finally collapsed. Their remaining ships, outmaneuvered and overwhelmed by the sheer number of human vessels, attempted to retreat. "Several Harvester ships are trying to jump to faster than light," Wilson's tactical officer reported. "Let one go," Wilson ordered. "Just one. Let them carry the message back to their people." From the bridge of his flagship, Wilson watched as a single Harvester vessel escaped, disappearing into the darkness of space. "What message will they carry?" Lisa asked quietly. Wilson's face was grim but satisfied. "That humanity is not prey. That we do not stand alone. That when one of us falls, 700,000 rise in their place." 3 days later, New Eden was fully under human control. The colony's surviving population emerged from hiding or captivity, joining in the work of rebuilding. Earth sent supplies and additional personnel to restore the damaged settlement. Emma and Tom stood in what remained of the colony's main plaza, watching as human ships continued to patrol the skies. "Will they come back?" Tom asked. Emma looked at the navigation core being studied in a nearby research facility, then at the massive human fleet still in orbit. "Probably," she said. "But next time, we'll be ready." In a secure communication room, Admiral Wilson spoke with President Rodriguez back on Earth. "New Eden is secure," he reported. We've recovered most of the surviving colonists and captured significant harvester technology. And the navigation core? The president asked. It contains coordinates to dozens of harvester worlds. Their entire empire is mapped out in that crystal. Wilson paused. They're still up there, Madam President, and they're much bigger than we thought. President Rodriguez nodded gravely. Then we have work to do. The fleet will remain deployed. We'll fortify New Eden and prepare for whatever comes next. As the sun set over the recovering colony, humanity's battle boats remained vigilant in the skies above. One colony had fallen, but it had risen again. And with it, humanity's place among the stars had been forever changed. The harvesters had come expecting an easy harvest. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant and learned a lesson that would echo throughout the galaxy. Humanity fights back.